Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome back to the Wobblin Sports channel. If you're new around here, I hope I can get you to consider liking the content and subscribing to the channel. If you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. There wasn't a match reaction from me over the weekend. I've been north, south, east and west up here in Brisbane checking out local footy, big time blockbuster rugby league as well. And this is a catch-up show, but it's also to talk about some of the key talking points out of this past weekend's action. Before I continue on any further, I just want to say hello to Tiger Walker. Thanks, man. And William Pearson, I met you the other night, mate. I'll get to that in just a second, but thank you very much for tuning in and saying good day. 33 subs away from 1K. We certainly are, mate. We certainly are. So share the good word, and thank you all very much for giving this a crack, whether it be live or whether it be in the next 24 or 48 hours or thereabouts or so. So let's check out what the Dally M leaderboard looks at the moment. Starting with Mr. Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow collecting himself the full 6 points over the weekend. He was outstanding for the Dolphins. Tohu Harris, a clear second placed player with 7 points, and then there's an absolute smorgasbord of players that are all sitting on 6 points, and there's one name there that you may not have picked up on yet, but that's just the official photograph or image that the NRL released this morning. And Reece Walsh collected 6 points as well. So Walshy, Mr. Reece Walsh, who had himself quite a good game on Friday night, he's up there as well. But Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, if you didn't know this already, I went and did a stream with BKR, and I did earmark Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow to be a breakout player in 2023. And 2 games in, man, he's been absolutely sensational, and I'm so happy for him, and the Cowboys let him go. So happy for him. So let's get into my power rankings list now. Who is at the bottom of the run? And I can see here that me thing's gone all bloody haywire, unfortunately. But I think you guys know who would be number 17th on my power rankings list, and that is the West Tigers. The West Tigers are 17th on my list. The Tigers yesterday at Leichhardt were utterly disgraceful, and I'm going to talk about that game too in a minute or two. But the Tigers are going to be 17th on my power rankings list after finishing, I think it was about 13th last week. They've dropped down to 17th. They were really, really ordinary. Dropping down to 16th position now. Here we are now. I've got the Canberra Raiders. The Canberra Raiders, they are admittedly without Josh Papali'i, Xavier Savage, and Jordan Rapana this past weekend. But the Raiders, man, while they have been defending stoutly, I just think the Raiders, man, they got themselves quite a rough month or so ahead of them. So the Raiders, they do play tough, but I think the other couple of teams ahead of them have just a little bit something more going for them. And I can't believe I'm saying that, especially considering that the Newcastle Knights have jumped up just the one spot to 15th position. Newcastle Knights, what an extraordinarily tough performance that they put up against the West Tigers yesterday. It wasn't even an okay performance. It was just really, really tough. And it's not the first time that we've seen Newcastle put in a performance like that over the past couple of years under Adam O'Brien. But kudos to them, man. That was a really, really good going. St. George Illawarra Dragons bumping up from the wooden spoon position last week up into 14th position. They showed a bit of something, man. They were really fast and direct, especially out of dummy half, bro. And I really liked what they had to offer up against the Gold Coast Titans yesterday afternoon. So I'd have to have St. George Illawarra Dragons above the Raiders, above the Knights, because I'm happy that I tipped them, because they might have a game plan or two that might actually shock a couple of people, but maybe not this weekend if you know what the fixture looks like. Going into the 13th team on my power rankings list are the New Zealand Warriors. They kept it competitive for a large majority of the contest against the Sydney Roosters, and I anticipated that they would. They just weren't good enough. They didn't have that polish, and gee whiz, this is a question I'm going to be asking Ruin Hammer tomorrow night on my channel. But wouldn't they have killed, absolutely slaughtered for a Luke Metcalf to be playing with them this past weekend? Now, this might be controversial, but fair income. The team who is in 12th position now, the Melbourne Storm, they are the biggest movers or the biggest losers, as it were, this week on my power rankings list. They do not look like a premiership threat at all. I've said it for weeks now. Melbourne Storm look like they'll just be a major pain in the ass that might play finals football. And they've been caught by the injury bug. Nelson Asafa-Solomona is going to be out for 6 or so weeks. Cameron Munster's still going to be out for another fortnight. Pappenhausen, who knows when he's actually going to return. Melbourne Storm, they were really ordinary against the Bulldogs in that first half, and now they've got a huge trip up for him this round, in round 3, up there on the glitter strip. And then team 11 on my power rank, team number 10 on my power rankings list are the Parramatta Eels. Dropping the one spot down from 9th. The Eels, they've got some back row issues, unfortunately. But they're still playing some okay football. I think they're doing a lot better than the Melbourne Storm, which is why I do have them up a couple of rungs. So I've got them as team number 10. Now, unfortunately, me laptop's gone a little bit haywire again, unfortunately. Team number 11, I chose to be the Bulldogs. I couldn't have the Bulldogs up above the Parramatta Eels because they have had a really inconsistent start to the season. But last week I had them in 15th. I do think that they do deserve to be above the Melbourne Storm, the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. But I think they're just about on par with Eels. But I've decided to put the Bulldogs in 11th, the Parramatta Eels in at 10th position, and in at 9th position are the North Queensland Cowboys. North Queensland Cowboys and the Parramatta Eels are sort of similar due to the injuries that they have sustained to the back row, especially. They're missing Isaiah Papali'i, Sean Lane, for example, the Parramatta Eels. Meanwhile, the Cowboys are missing the likes of a Hylam Lukey and a Luciano Leilua to help out a Cohen Hess and Jeremiah Nanai coming off of the bench, or vice versa. So I've got the Cowboys slipping outside of the top 8 for now on my power rankings list, but it's no panic stations as well. They were able to keep it a really good, fun, tight contest against the Broncos for over a half a footy on Friday night. Now, going into the top 8 of my power rankings list, I've got the Gold Coast Titans. They do drop a couple of slots from 6th position last weekend. They hit the ground running. They did well for the first 15 to 20 minutes of that game, the Gold Coast Titans, but they had some actual decent attack thrown at them, not like the West Tigers threw at them the week before. And they unfortunately played like they did last year and the week before, unfortunately. So the Gold Coast Titans, while they've had a better start to the season overall, including trials, over the likes of the Cowboys and the Parramatta Eels and even Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, that's the reason why I've got them in my top 8, but they definitely deserve to drop a couple of slots after that performance against the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Shifting into number 7 on my power rankings list, I've got the Sydney Roosters. They're jumping up from 10th position into 7th. They did that without the likes of a Jared Warrior-Hargreaves. They're missing still a number of players, the Sydney Roosters. And you did have Joey Manu come back, but he wasn't as impactful as what some may have would have liked. But it is his first game in a little while, isn't it? So I've got the Sydney Roosters just jumping back into the top 8, in the bottom half of the top 8, back into 7th position, because we know that they've still got players to come back, and it's absolutely no panic stations yet now that they're 1-1. But shifting into 6th position, a huge surprise, man. They have taken advantage of a half-strength Sydney Roosters. They have taken advantage over a Canberra Raiders side that are missing the likes of a Rapana and a Papali'i. But considering where we all thought we had them, they're sitting 2nd on the ladder. I can't have them in the top 4 because there are much better sides than them for sure. But I'm going to have the Dolphins in at number 6 on my power rankings list. They're just going along very, very nicely at the moment. Team number 5. This might be controversial to some, but the Cronulla Sharks, they leaked 26 points. They were down 10-0 inside the first couple of bloody seconds. It felt like against the Parramatta Eels. So while they did get the win, and while I do think that when Nico Hines comes back, they can definitely rectify things and shoot back up on that ladder, on not just on this power rankings list, but the actual NRL ladder. They're going to be good, but just for the time being, it was a disappointing performance. It was an entertaining game, sure, but I do think the Cronulla Sharks, they let themselves down just a little bit this past weekend. Moving into number 4, this might be another one that people might raise the eyebrow at, but it's only because they had the bye this past weekend. I did have them in second position last week, but I've had to just drop them down because the Manly Seagulls, they pumped a Bulldogs side that were out of sorts and really had their first actual opportunity together to play. The Manly Seagulls have also, they've defeated a Sydney Roosters outfit and a Rabbitohs outfit, who haven't been at full strength yet. But this Thursday night, they take on a Parramatta Eels side who, they're missing back rowers, but this is their biggest game of the year thus far. The Manly Seagulls. I couldn't take them out of my top 4 just because they missed the bye. So I'm going to have them in at 4th position because I do think that there are a few more teams that are well more deserving to be above them for sure, who are a little bit more solidified in my mind. And one of those sides are the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I thought they were the best team in the competition this time last weekend, and then they came up against the Penrith Panthers side that reminded them who in the hell they are. And South Sydney Rabbitohs, though, they still put in a subtly very good performance. They fought back to be 16-10 down with a minute to go. They had the final say of the game. And South Sydney went the length of the field, man. They showed that they are capable of winning it within a very little space of time, the South Sydney Rabbitohs. And to keep the Panthers to 16 points, that's a credit to their defense as well. So South Sydney, while last year and even the year before, admittedly, I thought that it was just, I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know how they've done it. But this year, I'm really starting to, I'm at that train station now, and I'm just about to buy myself a ticket on board the South Sydney Rabbitohs hype train. Absolutely. The team in second position, the Penrith Panthers, I dropped them down to 5th. Obviously, they lost to the Brisbane Broncos at home last weekend. They bounced back with a strong effort against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I think they left a few points on the board to be desired. So I've got the Penrith Panthers, but the team that beat them this past weekend and the team that looks like the most informed team of the entire competition after round 2 are the Brisbane Broncos. They are a thick, really tall, huge physical team that defensively have improved a couple, maybe even a few cogs over the offseason. Their attack with Reece Walsh on Friday night was also improved over the effort against the Penrith Panthers as well. This side, the Brisbane Broncos, I tipped them, I doubted them to finish inside the top 8 this year because I didn't know what Walsh was going to be like. Not that I doubted him, I just didn't know how he was going to help them off the field as well. That's my main concern, but they look really committed. They look really zoned in and know that they've really got to impress upon their fans that, we're doing it this year big time. So the Broncos, in my opinion, are the best team in the competition at this current point in time, and it's hard to argue. Yeah, sure, they beat the Cowboys, a top 4 side of last year, but they beat Penrith in Penrith the week before, and I think it's very, very clear to everybody that they have improved massively. So I just want to go into the chat and say, and just read some of your comments. So Target Sam, both of our teams played terrible on the weekend. I think I think the Cowboys played a few cogs better than the West Tigers, with all due respect to your team. Josh Rabbitoh's 2023. Hi, man. Thank you for tuning in and saying g'day. Flash Green says, Raiders, let's go, bro. Oh, man, they need to get going very shortly. Man, the Storm played badly against the Dogs. They did, but they are decimated by injuries for sure. So did his team through. Did my team though? I'm not too sure what you mean by that. But Jason Reader, hello, man. Thank you very much. You're always in the chat. You're always in a lot of other people's live chats as well. So I just want to say thank you very much for all your support, in particularly Jason Reader, and same too with Tiger Walker. You're always in and about as well. Nice win for the Roosters against the Warriors, he says to Jason Reader. Yeah, man. And Jason Reader, he's talking about the game this Friday night. It's going to be close between South Sydney and Easts. Always is, or maybe not always. There have been a couple of really large beltings over the few years, but it's going to be game of the round, undoubtedly. South Sydney versus Eastern Suburbs. Taylor Brooks, your analysis is almost as beautiful as Cowboy Kate. Almost. She's probably taken, but wow, what a woman. Well, bro, well, I'm not going to reveal absolutely anything about Cowboy Kate, but I don't know if she's watching. I hope she is, but I'll let her know. I think maybe, but my analysis is almost as beautiful as Cowboy Kate. Well, I'll take it. Well, I want to go into. Oh, you've thrown me a loop. Well, I'm going to go into my team of the week now, ladies and gents, and let's see what we got here. Let me find it. So my back three, the best back three of round two, in my opinion, starting with Reece Walsh. Reece Walsh was absolutely on fire in his return, or his first official fair income regular season game for the Brisbane Broncos. And on the wings, Jacob Carraz picking himself up a couple of meat pies as well, but also just barnstorming too. But Sunia Taruva, he was absolutely exceptional. He hit the ball up as heavy and as solidly as any front row in the competition. He actually topped the running meters of the Penrith Panthers, I believe, over the weekend. So my back three, my back three for the team of the week in round two: Carraz, Walsh, and Taruva. My centre pairing. Going in, Jake Avarillo was so good, man. He had 2 try assists, 2 line break assists. He had line breaks for himself. I think he pumped over 100 running meters as well. And defensively, I think he made a double digits as well. Maybe missed the 1 or 2 tackles, but he was so good for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs this past weekend. And Jesse Ramian is someone that I've seen a few team of the week posts over the past day or so, well, over the past few hours, I should say. No one said Jesse Ramian, but I thought with him running for well over 150 meters, I think he was really, really solid for the Cronulla Sharks. I liked what he had to offer. He may have missed a couple of tackles himself, but I really liked Jesse Ramian's performance over the weekend. Shifting into my halves of the weekend, Ezra Mann, you want to talk about someone that you may not have seen on the Dally M list here just before. Ezra Mann, where is he, bro? Because honest to goodness, he has been the informed player of the competition over the first 2 rounds, and even going back to week 2 of the preseason challenge. Ezra Mann, for me, man, has been out of this world good to start the 2023 campaign for the Brisbane Broncos. And Nathan Cleary, I think just his effort on Friday night to limp off and then play injured as well. And I thought the way he carried his team around the park was really, really good too. I couldn't go past Nathan Cleary. So I'm going to go Cleary and Ezra Mann as the halves of round 2. Shifting into the front row now, we've got Payne Haas, Mark Nichols, and Reed Marnie. Reed Marnie, he finds Jake Avarillo. He gets him away. Reed Marnie ran for so many meters as well. Defensively, I believe he topped the tackle count with, I think, 48 or some number in the 40s. Payne Haas was just monstrous again. That's the second week in a row that I've had Payne Haas in my team of the week. And Mark Nichols needs to be shouted out, especially coming off the bench. He ended up running for over 180 meters and tackled his ass off as well. Mark Nichols off the bench, was absolutely sensational. And he is one of my front rowers of round two. Shifting into the back row now, Felice Kafusi, I think he was just another solid effort again. Um, maybe not as clean, maybe not as shiny as his effort in round one, but I've got Felice Kafusi there. I think Isaiah Yeo was the lock of the weekend, but that's absolutely no disrespect to the one Jermaine Hopgood on Friday night. Hopgood was great, but I just think Isaiah Yeo was in the frame just a little bit more. I think he was uh, just a bit more creative than Hopgood. No disrespect to Hopgood, who came in a close second, but Isaiah Yeo was great. And Liam Martin, some people might raise the eyebrow at, but I thought his impact every time he ran the ball was absolutely amazing, especially to start off that second half. So my back row of round two, Felice Kafusi, Liam Martin, and Isaiah Yeo. And then my interchange bench, I struggled with one of these options, but Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow, I absolutely had to have on my interchange bench. Regan Campbell-Gillard as well, I thought was very strong for the Parramatta Eels. Tohu Harris was very solid himself, and then Patrick Carrigan as well. So I think maybe it's a little harsh to leave Jermaine Hopgood out, but that's the team that I've gone for there. I've just lost me mouse, unfortunately, but that's all right. I can just go with the mouse pad. Dane Laurie and Brooks, Tiger Walker says, have been the Tigers' best in the last 2 weeks. Well, it's controversial, man, because I mean that you're absolutely entitled to your opinion, but I believe halfway through that game, Tim Sheen said, "Laurie, get off the fullback position. Charlie Staines, get in and do the fullback position." So Dane Laurie, he didn't get hooked per se, but he wasn't fullback by the time that the full-time siren went by the end of yesterday's game as well. So just quickly, guys, if you are just tuning in, if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to throw at me, I will get to them as quickly as humanly possible, for sure. So what I want to do now, just touch on a couple of things that happened over the weekend. First of all, I've had an opportunity to watch the first 2 episodes of Dawn of the Dolphins on Stan. If you're a rugby league fan, what are you doing if you haven't watched it yet? This is the best rugby league documentary I have seen, and there's only been about 8 of them over the past couple of years, like there's not many good quality rugby league documentaries. This is one of them. It's so interesting, man. The first episode is very much about the history of the club. It's also very, very much centered around Wayne Bennett. And then in the second episode, it's more centered around the young talent and more of the signings. And they're so honest about it. They even showed instances, and sorry if you think this is a spoiler, but they even were honest enough and brave enough to show the reaction of the initial release of the home jersey, where everybody thought it looked like a bottle of vanilla Coke. They showed that. They reacted to it. They weren't afraid to pop it in. But at the same time, though, they showed this graphic that said it was a huge bestseller. Yeah, man. So this Dawn of the Dolphins documentary, it's funny that with this Panthers documentary came out very recently as well, because this Dawn of the Dolphins one absolutely obliterates it, because the Penrith Panthers one, while it's good, it's even very good. The Penrith Panthers one doesn't really appeal to a worldwide audience. It's not one that can really suck in new viewers, in my opinion. That one's pretty much exclusively for Penrith Panthers fans. This documentary, Dawn of the Dolphins, has the capacity to get somebody's attention from France and keep it there. It has it could get somebody's attention from England, from Papua New Guinea, and just have them sit down and watch it and feel more connected than watching that Penrith Panthers documentary. It's a sensational series on Stan. And there's a new episode that I believe is dropped just tonight as well, or very, very shortly. Go do it. If you're a rugby league fan, it's absolutely fascinating viewing. for sure. Going into my next topic now, Tedesco versus Sua Li'i. Well, breaking news as of about 45 minutes ago, but I'll just touch on that shortly. There's been a lot of talk about, does Tedesco get the tap on the shoulder, or does Suoli'i get detoured and rerouted to Super Rugby? Both these players are coming off contract at the end of 2024. And my point to all of this was going to be, Tedesco absolutely deserves to do whatever he wants to do, considering what he has done for the Eastern Suburbs. James Tedesco doesn't deserve to get touched on the shoulder. He doesn't deserve to be led out the front door over Joseph Suoli'i, who's only, 20, 21 years old, who's got another 14 years ahead of him. But breaking news as of 45 minutes ago, it's been noted that the Roosters have actually agreed to talk about upgrading him to extend his contract with the Sydney Roosters, and therefore it probably lends itself to believing that Joseph Suoli'i, he may not just be a Rooster after the end of 2024. He may not be a Rooster at the end of 2024, but he may not even be in rugby league come the year 2025. But you know what? If that's what happens, I think that's just destiny, sort of thing. Because Tedesco absolutely does not deserve to be shown the front door sooner than what he would have anticipated. Absolutely not. So if the Roosters have come out over the past 40 minutes or so and said, we're going to talk to Tedesco about extending his contract, then I think that's the proper way to go. I think he absolutely deserves a huge say, not this young prodigy who we don't know yet. He looks amazing. He was one of the best players in his position last year, Joseph Suoli'i. But I've got to say, Tedesco absolutely holds it over the young man in every aspect, just quietly. And Flash Tatango says he agrees, and I really, really appreciate that, man. At least I'm here not bloody wobbling me jaw incorrectly. And Jacko Hire, Evening League Nutters, hey, man. Yo, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you. Going into me next one, and this is the real big talking point out of the weekend, and it's not on the field, and I don't want to go too much into it because my brain will melt, and I think your brains will bloody melt as well, just quietly. But the Peter Volandis, Andrew Abdo, I think it was even Brett Reed of the Courier Mail that actually broke the story that that expansion, this is what they're going to be thinking about, the NRL. They're thinking about bringing in 20 teams in the next decade or so. And what I'm going to do now is bring up the Zero Tackle website. This is zerotackle.com. So excuse any advertisements here, but News Corp have revealed the blueprint behind the likely expansions. $400 million allocated funding between the three new teams over the next 20 years or so. There you go. New teams to split $20 million per season 3 ways over 2 decades. The 18th team in the NRL will likely be a Pacifica side based in Cairns. They'll play home games in Tonga, Samoa, and Papua New Guinea. However, the Australian government would also throw in a large sum of money to help get a Pacific team off the ground, and the North Sydney Bears are open to merging with the Pacifica team if and when it does come about. This is becoming more real and real as every single week goes by. This Pacifica team. I spoke about this about 4 months ago now, but Papua New Guinea made their intentions clear that they would like to be considered to be the 18th team come about 2026. And they showed the blueprint to the NRL. They're in discussions, or they've had discussions with the Prime Minister as well. The Papua New Guinean 18th team bid is fair dinkum, but it just feels like it's too soon, man, because the state of security and for lack of a better term, I don't think this is the right word to use, but I'll say it anyway. the well-being of Papua New Guinea. They still get really, really rowdy over in Papua New Guinea. The security is still not first class. To have a team over in Papua New Guinea in maybe 4 or 5 years is crazy, and a lot of things are going to have to happen in that space of time. Now, do I think that the likes that a collaboration of Tonga, Samoa, Papua New Guinea, all congregating into Cairns is the right move? I personally, I uh, I don't like it. I'd rather them. I, I I I would rather them be based in the Northern Territory. That's how I would do things. I'd have them all not to I'd have them mainly represent the Pacific Islands mainly, but I'd actually base them out in Darwin, just so you can say that you're actually expanding onto the mainland of Australia as well. Because right now you're expanding internationally there in a domestic competition. So if you can maybe impress upon the Northern Territory government, if you can impress upon the Australian government and whoever else you need to do it with, I would say that you actually base them out at Darwin, and you call them something or other. Yeah, I like the moniker of the Hunters. I would call them the Northern Hunters, in my opinion. That's how I would do it if I got hit up the ass by a rainbow and I was able to financially back it. So just before I go on, just want to go into the comments because it's a tricky one. If there is a PNG team, surely Justin Olam goes there. Well, I don't know how old Justin Olam is. I think he's 27 years old. I don't know if he'd be able to give a season to this Pacifica team. Jacko Hero says, so if it is a Pacific side, can they sign a player like Lodge or Sammy Walker? Yes. Yes, they would. And that's another thing too. They would have to sign an Australian superstar, but who are you going? How it's going to take so much convincing to get someone like a Sammy Walker to shift his bits from the Bondi latte surroundings to Port Moresby, Fiji, Samoa, Tonga. It's going to take a Herculean effort to do that, and to also base themselves out at Cairns. And that's another thing too. That should just be North Queensland Cowboys territory. That should be an area that the Cowboys would take one or two country games out there every year, but they haven't done it, and I don't know why they don't continue to do it, or why they have not started doing it. So I'm not a fan of it. That Brent Reed was saying that that it would be great, a North Queensland derby, if you will, but nah. I think you need to expand it out into the mainland. There are talks of a new stadium out at Cairns, which does lend itself to having a team based out there. There are talks about building a brand new stadium, or demolishing Barlow Park as it is now and building up a new one that I think is going to be about 25,000 seats, state of the art. But there's also talk that the Northern Territory want to, or they're thinking about getting funding up to build themselves a rectangular stadium up there at the Northern Territory to get some sort of rugby football movement going. So for me personally, I wouldn't base them out at Cairns. I'd base them out at Darwin. I just think it just spreads your footprint on the mainland of Australia. But this Papua New Guinean bid, they started talking fair income about it about 6 months ago, and no one really gave it the benefit of the doubt. Even I was like, oh man, it's a nice pipe dream. So much stuff has to happen, but this is getting more and more real every week that goes by. There are other bids out there, or other potential teams to expand. Adelaide Rams was actually highlighted in the report as well. That's extraordinary. And if you don't mind me saying so, Hold the Ball did a talk with one of the main Adelaide Rams, or Adelaide Rugby League supporters, bidders, and they even said it themselves that that the rugby union participation rates in South Australia is larger than rugby league. Now, there's the challenge within itself. Do you convert? Well, how could you convert those rugby union players in South Australia to rugby league? look, I'd back it, but I much prefer to see a Perth side. I much prefer to see a Papua New Guinean side exclusively. Um, but hey, man, you got the Fiji and Drua in the Super Rugby at the moment, and they're going pretty all right at the moment, aren't they? They had a first initial tough year, but they're impressing a lot of people, and they are improving indeed. So it's such a tricky one. I don't want to spend too much time on it because Dolphins are in. They're up 2-0. They're second on the ladder. Expansion. We've got to expand. We've got to go here, there, and everywhere. But this next side, the 18th team, wherever it's going to be, is going to need, and I think it just will anyway, but it's going to need more than 18 months to form up a roster and to develop its identity and advertising and media and everything like that. The Dolphins were given the green light in October of 2021. That's only 18 months. A Pacifica side is going to have to be given the green light in the next year if the rugby league do give them the green light for the year of 2027, for example. They are going to need a few years to really get things rolling. That they can't just be given a short amount of time, whether it be a Pacifica team, especially, or whether it be the Perth Bears. But I think the feeling is that the Perth Bears are going to be holding, are going to they can't hold their breath, unfortunately. I don't think the Bears franchise is going to be in the competition anytime soon. However, in saying that, I'm not a fan of the bye fixtures as well so far. Just want to go into the comments now. And if you guys have any comments or questions that you'd like to ask me, throw it my way and I'll get to it as quickly as I can. Checo Hero says there was talk about a Fijian Kiwi side based out of Wellington with a few home games in Fiji, but that idea died. And I don't know if that was for the Wellington Orcas. I don't know if that was the idea, but a second New Zealand side as well is a lot better of an idea than having a Pacifica side based out at Cairns, in my opinion, at least. Take it to Darwin, take it to the Northern Territory, just to spread your footprint on the mainland of Australia. Tiger Walker says, I kind of want a Tassie team in the NRL. Well, look, I'd love every major city in Australia to have a rugby league side. Absolutely, I do. But Tasmania would just about be in last place on that power rankings list, unfortunately. So expansion, yeah, sure. I'm happy for it to go ahead to 20 teams. I'm happy for it to happen soon, not as soon as possible. You can't give you can't give a Pacific side or a Perth side, whoever, you can't give this next side only 18 months to work from the ground up. I think the Dolphins were already in a fantastic situation financially, and they already had enough knowing, talk about them in the rugby league community, groundswell, if you will, to get to get going nicely. So this next side is going to have to need at least 2 years, at least 2 years, 2 years notice before they come into the competition. So, but expansion, it's a fun topic to talk about, but sometimes it's just we really got to we just got to just hold on here. So, Jacko Hire, just finally here says Union struggled with a side in Perth, even with thousands of expat Kiwis and South Australians. There's no, I doubt. There's doubt that we would do much better. And where am I in Queensland? I'm southeast Queensland, Mr. Walker. I'm not going to give you my coordinates, but yeah. But yeah, that's a good point too. Western Force had a great, well, not great, but they definitely had the opportunity to do something, but they didn't do it. So yeah, I would rather see a Perth side come in over a Pacifica side. It also gives the NRL flexibility and the ability to incorporate a late night Friday night fixture, 9:30 p.m. kickoff live in New South Wales, or 8:30 or 6:30, as it were. over in Perth. So I'd rather see a Perth side come in before a Pacifica side. And if a Pacifica side does come in, it's just the fixture. What is that going to look like? What time are they going to play and all that other jazz? There could be I don't know, there could be a 2 p.m. kickoff in Port Moresby, and it could be 1 o'clock or midday here in Australia. I'm not too sure, but yes, in Southeast as well. Tiger Walker says, in jacket, no, not South Aussie semi lad, South African expats. Oh, sorry, yes, no, you're right. Sorry, yes, true. But yeah, that's just everything that I wanted to talk about. Some of the talking points out of round two. But just quickly as well, just before I go off, I just want to give a quick story about what happened to me over the weekend. And it was the first time ever that I had gone out to Suncorp Stadium. And because it absolutely pissed down with rain, I had to take the car. If you're ever going to Suncorp Stadium, you probably already know this, but don't drive out to Suncorp Stadium because you'll be paying through the nose for petrol, tolls, and just parking as well. So don't ever drive out there. But also there was like this North Queensland Cowboys official private function at this pub that was literally 100 meters up the road. And I had to, and I went with my mother, and she was disabled, or she is disabled. So I had to wheelchair her in and go take the car elsewhere that we had selected to use our parking. Because if I parked where I'd parked to get her out of the car originally, I would have been towed. So I had to move my car, right? And so I parked my car, I walked back up to the pub, and my mum says, oh, you missed out on something great. I was like, what? Gavin Cooper walked in the door. The CEO, Jeff Rybel, walked in the door. They had a great speech. They talked about, thank you for being here, Cowboys members and supporters. Thank you for being here. And my eye just twitched like, are you joking? Are you absolutely joking? I just fought through the rain, through the traffic, through shithousery, and I missed that. I'm so goddamn jealous. And so we ended up in Suncorp Stadium, and honest to God, our seats, maybe I can choose better seats, but our seats were in the Cowboys Bay, but they were right along the stairs. And honest to God, I think I missed out on 60% of the game. It was just an awful view because there were people coming up and down all throughout the game. And it's like, are you here to watch the game? Or do you want to go and socialize? Because if you want to go and do that, just stay away, man. Because I just really wanted to watch the game. So just having a bit of a wobble on about just some of the people out there at Suncorp Stadium. Not saying that they were bad. As a matter of fact, I mean, a couple of really nice Brisbane Broncos fans actually. Like the people here in Queensland love their rugby league, and they spoke to me really respectfully and really wanted to get to know me. So yeah, I had a couple of people even recognize me out at Suncorp Stadium, like Will Pearson, which is still supremely weird. Supremely weird for that to be happening to me. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about today as well is the Cowboys match against the Brisbane Broncos on Friday night. The Cowboys started like a house on fire, and then just slowly but surely the Cowboys faded out of that game because the Brisbane Broncos absolutely overpowered them. Played some terrific footy, the Brisbane Broncos did. And Peta Hiku had a few brain fades, which means that he's going to miss 2 weeks. And Scott Drinkwater also had an absolute brain explosion of an attempted tackle on Corey Oates, and poor Corey Oates is now going to miss 7 weeks with a broken jaw. So Scott Drinkwater misses 3. Peta Hiku misses 2. How would I do it if I was the coach? So team lists come out tomorrow. How would I do it? I would say that you give Tom Chester a crack in a fullback position. And then for Peta Hiku's slot, you can do one of 2 things. You can either bring in Brendan Elliott, and he's a great player on his day, or you can blood a youth. You can give a young man a debut jersey and put in Jordan Lip. I just think we need a little bit more of unpredictability just to help us out. Like we had the element of surprise in 2022, and the past couple of games, man, we've just been looking a little bit predictable in attack. defensively, we're not too bad. Yeah, we let in 28 points against the Broncos, but got to remember Scott Drinkwater's sin bin for that high shoulder charge on Corey Oates. Two tries came in that 10-minute space. So, and to be honest with you, it's fair. Either he was going to go off to the sin bin for a shoulder charge, or he was going to go off for a sin bin because of a high tackle or whatever. So I'm comfortable with the sin binning because that's the main talking point coming out of the game. But besides the Brisbane Broncos efforts, which were first class, that's the main talking point, that Scott Drinkwater, that moment changed the game for sure, unfortunately. And Peter Hiku, yeah, just had a couple of brain fades as well. But there's one thing that I want to mention, or two more things I want to mention about that game. Number one, Jeremiah Nanai and Cohen Hess had about 3 or 4 runs each and ran for about 40 meters each against a huge powerhouse Brisbane Broncos outfit. Whoa, dude. Whoa. That didn't help the likes of Jason Taumalolo or Jordan McLean or Ruben Cotter out in any way, trying to get out of trouble. No way, no how, unfortunately. But defensively, Cohen Hess wasn't bad, but Jeremiah Nanai, I think he made about 28 tackles, but missed about 8, which is not good, considering his end of season last year, playing Origin and playing for Australia as well. But also to add on to that, Griffin Neame, he's coming off the bench. He's doing great. He's doing really, really good, Griffin Neame. Jake Granville, I think he deserves his spot in jersey 14. I've seen a couple of people saying that first grade has passed him by. I completely disagree. I think Granville is still a first grader that can offer a lot. But we didn't use, or Todd Payton didn't use, James Tarmo at all. And Jermaine Tanua-Brown is a young man that is not... he's a solid worker and he can hit up the ball. It's great to have 10, 12 hit-ups, but when your hit-ups are dying really quickly, you're being contained easily. And when you're only making, just an example, this isn't how many runs he ran for, but when you're only making 10 hit-ups and then your running meters is something like 70 or so, it's not, I don't think Jermaine Tanua-Brown is providing enough punch up the guts for us when he comes off the interchange bench as well. So I would like to see the bench change because if you're not going to use Tarmo, don't select him at all. If you want to use him as a leader, as a talker, choose him as 18th, 19th man every time and just have him sitting there and talking to the boys, especially during the halftime sheds and pre-match talk as well. So I'd really like to see Tani Ellis-Drugu make his debut next week in favour of Jermaine Tanua-Brown. I don't think Jermaine Tanua-Brown is a bad player. I really don't. He's a workhorse sort of a player. He's not providing enough punch for us. And I think someone like Tani Ellis-Drugu can give us some more mongrel and a little bit more X factor, a little bit more dimension in attack as well. But defensively, I wonder how he'd go as well. And the last thing I'd like to say about that game, or about the North Queensland Cowboys overall, is since the preliminary final, there's a stat out there that I've figured out, and this is a rough guesstimate, but it's very accurate. There's a stat out there that I think would read on the right edge defense of the North Queensland Cowboys. They've leaked, since the preliminary final, they would have leaked about 12, 13 tries. They've leaked about 3 up the guts and then about 3 on the other side, on the left edge defensively for the Cowboys. So the main concern this weekend, especially, and moving forward, our right edge defense that features Felt, Hiku, Jeremiah Nanai, and at times Jermaine Tanua-Brown, that side is getting exposed. The numbers are something like, it's about 12, 13 tries that have been leaked on North Queensland's right edge to about 3 up the guts and then 3 out to the right-hand side or so since the preliminary final. And that coincides with what I was talking about Jeremiah Nanai before, where he missed 28 tackles, made 28 tackles and missed 8. That needs to improve immediately. And it means that what that's telling me too is that teams are bullying. They are really hammering down on Jeremiah Nanai. And he is making mistakes. He is tiring, but he's only a young man. So I'm happy just to ride the wave with him at the moment. But if I can sort of shine a spotlight on the mistakes and make it clear to somebody in the team, I'll do it and say, this is what's happening. And what we need to do is get someone like, when he comes back, like a Hylam Lukey or a Taniela Seidrugu up the guts. We need someone with more mongrel than a Jermaine Tanua-Brown to help Jeremiah Nanai out defensively. Because at the moment, Nanai, I'm not saying he's a liability, but he's getting caught out a couple of times, particularly in that Broncos game as well. That right edge defensively for the Cowboys must improve from this weekend onwards, because otherwise the left edge attack of a South Sydney Rabbitohs that we come up against are going to absolutely just, the floodgates will open, unfortunately. Again, I repeat, the stats, it's accurate, but they're not official, but the stats are accurately saying 12, 13 tries are being leaked by the Cowboys on their right edge, where from the middle to the left edge defensively of the Cowboys, it's only about 3 each. So, teams are figuring that out very, very quickly, and I've seen it happen too. So we need to be better. Attacking-wise, it's okay at the moment. It's just okay at the moment. Broncos are a powerhouse defense, and Raiders, they've been training with Josh Miller and Michael Maguire all off-season, so they were always going to be fired up. Now, the boys take on the New Zealand Warriors this weekend to defensively have improved themselves, haven't they? And just finally as well, I went to BMD Kugari Oval out there at Wynnum Manly, and I saw the NRLW, or not the NRLW, sorry, the Queensland Rugby League women's side, the Mackay Cutters, who's made up predominantly of North Queensland Gold Stars players from yesteryear play. And ladies and gents, this Cowboys NRLW side is going to come into the competition and just hit the ground running. There are so many talented women in that side that none of you have heard of. There are front rowers that are throwing the ball crisply. There are front rowers that there was a front rower that I'm not going to reveal her name, but there was a front rower that absolutely barnstormed up the guts and made about 15 meters, a la Matt Scott in the semi-final against Cronulla in 2015. This Mackay Cutters side, for the QRLW, if it's anything to go by, this Cowboys NRLW side is going to be so good. It's going to be so good, bro. And finally got to say that I saw Emma Mantelman play live, Mackenzie Wheel, Shannon Marto. These are some players that I've really wanted to see live, and finally been able to say that I can tick that box off. So just wanted to put that one out there too. So, and by the way, Kugari Oval is a pretty cool place. Just want to go out there and say, Maxa, I always struggle with your name, bro. Maxa 500 plays Minecraft. Thank you very much for coming in. Tiger Walker says, always take the train to Suncorp. I know, man. I know. It's just that it was my first time out there. It was bucketing down. I just had to, I just had to do it. Then we've got Jack. I bet you wish you still had the hammer, Sam. Shut up. Shut up. I do, bro. I do. I really bloody do, Jacko. I do. Tanua-Brown is a journeyman. Sam always will be, but Neem will become a top prop who can play long minutes. Absolutely. Cowboy Kate, absolutely was spot on when she said Griffin Neem is going to be in for a huge 2023 campaign. And I just want to say hello to BKR Sport. Holy moly! I hope you had some safe travels, mate. Yeah, thank you very much for giving up some of your time to say good day to me. Thank you very much, man. And on that note, we're going just under an hour now, so I'll finish up here. Thank you everybody for tuning in and allowing me to wobble me jaw. I'll say something different that I don't usually say, but if you'd like to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, I am active on there, and in particular Instagram. So I urge you all to follow me there. Just type in Wobble and Jaw Sports and you'll find me. Tomorrow night, I'm joined by Ruin Hammer to give a match preview for Cowboys versus Warriors. Also, when Cowboys versus Warriors kicks off, myself and Hold the Ball on this channel, the Wobble and Jaw Sports channel, are going to be doing a live watch along of his team versus my team. That is a watch along you do not want to miss out on. I promise you, it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be so good. But thank you all very much for tuning in. It means so much. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers as well. But yeah, it'll happen when it happens. So I'll talk to you guys all later. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Adios.